Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Friday, March 7th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Patricia, things seem to be changing hour by hour. Earlier today, Trump said Mexico would get a temporary pause on tariffs. Then late this afternoon, announced the reprieve would also apply to Canada. So here's where things stand right now. There is a 1-month delay on most tariffs. Canadian and Mexican goods that fall under the North American Trade Pact are now exempt from the 25% tariff. Now, according to the Associated Press, that's about 40% of Canadian imports into the U.S. Now, this exemption is set to end on April 2nd, but with so many changes in recent days and weeks, it's hard to predict when or if tariffs will return. Here's what Donald Trump had to say when asked about the delay this afternoon.
This is something that we have to do. There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing. But the United States will be very happy. And, you know, our farmers are going to be very happy. And again, there'll be disruption.
Despite what Trump says, farmers in states like Kansas are expressing concern over the tariffs. Now, Canada's keeping its retaliatory tariffs on $30 billion of American goods, but it is delaying the second wave on $125 billion of products until April 2nd. Premier Doug Ford says the province's retaliatory measures will also remain in place, but he's also going a step further.
We're going to put a 25% tariff on electricity coming from Ontario to Michigan, New York and Minnesota. And isn't this a shame? It's an absolute mess. He's created chaos. He ran on a mandate to lower costs, lower inflation, create more jobs. It's total opposite. You know, people are going to be losing their jobs in the U.S. and in Canada, and inflation's happening already.
Speaking on Fox Business this afternoon, Ford confirming that Ontario will still be imposing that 25% export tax on electricity. That's going to start on Monday. Now, U.S. booze will also remain off LCBO shelves. A spokesperson for the Premier's office saying Trump needs to drop tariffs entirely for it to return. Now, this tariff whiplash causing more turmoil on the stock markets with all the major exchanges down again today. It's also creating a lot of uncertainty for manufacturers, businesses, and workers on both sides of the border.
Companies here in Nisku are really concerned.
We don't usually pick up till, I don't know, June, but I don't know, it's kind of scary.
Workers in Alberta's oil and gas sector are bracing for the blow of tariffs. Alberta ships 4 million barrels of oil every day to the U.S. Some of the workers who helped to send that oil south worry their jobs are at stake.
Not yet, but there's rumors that it's going to happen.
It will equate to job loss in the end, and a slowdown to businesses within the community and loss in revenue. So that's the biggest concern.
The president of the Rural Municipalities of Alberta says the economic instability is already having an impact, with fears it could get worse.
It hits us differently in rural Alberta. We're a smaller community, so we have less likelihood to pick up some of the other revenue in other areas. So it tends to impact us first and harder.
I wake up every morning and read the news, and we have this feeling of helplessness.
Cochrane's mayor is calling for calm, intentional strategy as other local leaders look to the province for help for industry struggling.
Spend some time with the ministers and possibly the premier on what that looks like. How are we going to help Albertans? How are we going to help Canadians?
The province has forecasted the impact tariffs could have on jobs. Budget 2025 predicts unemployment will hit 7.4% this year, forecasting a worst-case scenario that could see 15,000 jobs lost in 2025. So far, Alberta's premier has not committed help to sectors hardest hit.
Ottawa has the means to be able to support the industry, whether it's through an enhanced employment insurance program, which they've already committed to do.
Smith says Ottawa's counter tariffs could generate upwards of $40 billion. Dollars she suggests could go to workers. Shailan Skalski, CTV News, Edmonton.
As the signs of winter leave, many are looking forward to what promises to be a busy summer in Montreal. In the face of U.S. threats, Tourism Montreal is expecting a big boost from Canadians.
Close to 50% of people that plan to go to the U.S. now are reconsidering to stay in Canada.
According to Montreal Centre-Ville, Canadians already make up 3/4 of visitors. But for hotel owners, it's not just those numbers seeing a boost.
That for Europeans, the choice between Canada and the U.S. Might be a little different this year. People might be choosing to come to Canada instead of the U.S.
Daniel Galland says Hotel Youville in Old Montreal is filling up with international visitors. And it's not just for political reasons, but financial ones too. And that includes Americans looking to take advantage of a favorable exchange rate.
I mean, I just came back from, the U.S. before Christmas, and when I got my visa bill, I was like, what? I didn't spend this much money. But imagine if you're American and you come back and go, wow, it sounded like a lot, but really, in essence, it's not even comparable.
And the Tourism Board plans to play that up in its marketing, targeting possible visitors from New York, Boston, and Washington who are looking for a bargain.
30% more food, 30% more fun, 30% more culture, when you come to see, but now it's not 30. It's going to be 40%.
He says last year there was 11% growth in the number of Americans coming to Montreal, and in January it was 14% more. The manager of the Sheraton says the hope is they will spend more in their restaurant and bar.
Yeah, you can buy an extra bill too.
And if you haven't already booked a room for Montreal's marquee events, good luck getting one now.
This one is particular because we're already almost sold out, so which is great.
It's continuing the trend of good tourism numbers post-pandemic.
Just for Montreal, we're looking at $4.8 billion of economic impact. That's direct, and it's roughly 130,000 jobs.
As the industry tries to make the most of the summer, no matter why someone chooses to come. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Canada's first ministers have agreed to knock down the interprovincial trade walls.
We're going to be able to add up to $200 billion to the Canadian economy without even going through Donald Trump.
Part of the plan includes removing red tape on Canadian alcohol to allow for a smoother flow of goods province to province.
We'll work with the other premiers and other jurisdictions to get them done. Canadians want these barriers down. I want them down, and we just need willing dance partners across the country.
One major area not seeing trade walls come down yet is the food sector.
I can understand why, because you would have to deal with the fortress called supply management. Quotas are managed by provinces, and provinces tend to be incredibly protective of the quota system.
If restrictions weren't present, Charlebois says it would increase market competition and lower food prices. The barriers limiting food producers to sell out of province is costing Canadians $9 billion a year at the grocery store, according to Charlebois. How quickly these trade walls fall isn't clear, but once they do, it will mean big opportunities for Atlantic Canada.
We're a province of 1 million people, and in a massive country that opens up doors for those companies across our nation, and that is new markets that will can benefit every Nova Scotia company.
The First Minister's statement also included plans for a Canada-wide credential recognition system to allow qualified Canadians to work in their field regardless of the province or territory. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
For the third time in just 24 hours, shots fired involving the towing industry shortly before 10 p.m., this time at a yard in Etobicoke.
You just keep hearing constant stories about continuous violence and fire and any type of gun violence. Now it's almost fearful to ask for help or reach out for help.
No injuries were reported, but police did find evidence of gunfire and say the suspect or suspects fled in a vehicle. Tuesday night at roughly the same time, bullets flew outside this tow yard near Weston Road in St. Clair. A man in his 50s was sent to hospital in life-threatening condition, and one in his 20s is expected to survive. Then, an hour later in Scarborough, a tow truck driver in his 20s was shot at a gas station and sent to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
It's really shocking. I mean, the statistics alone are shocking. The history is shocking. The fact that it's still continuing is shocking.
Max Worth with Abrams says they mostly handle government and corporate contracts.
The challenges that the industry faces with respect to its image, it's disappointing, but it comes from a very small percentage of the industry.
According to Toronto police data, in 2024, 13% of all shooting incidents were tied to tow truck-related disputes. This year, that number has risen to 29%, but overall shootings and firearm discharges are down citywide by 38%.
So you just worry a little bit, and this kind of a thing is a bit of an escalation. You feel already vulnerable, don't know who's going to show up, and now to know that you might even be in danger or something, that's a little nerve-wracking.
I don't know what is going on between them. But no, I personally would be okay.
There's so many gypsy tow trucks, and there's too much licensing been given out, so that's the problem. There's just too many people. It's just like the Ubers and the taxis fighting amongst each other.
A spokesperson for the Ministry of Transportation says it is closely monitoring tow vehicle storage operations and drivers and working with enforcement partners. We spoke with a tow truck driver affiliated with the company where those gunfire was last night, and he told us that he is afraid every single day he goes to work and that he parks his tow truck with a number of others at the backs of plazas or behind buildings to try and stay out of sight. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. Everyday items from fresh fruit and vegetables to dairy and meat all will be impacted by U.S. and Canadian tariffs amidst an on-again, off-again trade war. Consumers will have to pay more to fill their shopping cart.
I'm not going to speak to what solutions we may have to bring forward in the coming months. We are aware of it and certainly are having internal conversations. But I can tell you whatever that solution would be when it comes to food security would certainly be in partnership with our food bank partners.
The province, as part of its budget, is forking over $5 million for 113 food banks this year to help with bulk purchasing. More than $31 million has been funded since 2020.
My main focus on dollars over the last several years in this space have been about helping organizations build capacity and less about buying food.
Grocery store prices on milk, butter, meat, and eggs has skyrocketed earlier this week before a tariff reprieve. The Federation of Independent Grocers says stores are already getting price increase requests from some of their suppliers.
The increase in food prices really has been a double-edged sword for food banks because it does decrease the donations we get in, and we've been lucky that our donations, though they have gone down, they've still sustained better than other provinces.
And due to the growing uncertainty, some are willing to pay a little bit more for locally grown food from companies such as Whole Leaf.
We're in most Canadian retailers currently, and we have seen numbers go up as the rhetoric from the U.S. administration has increased.
The company produces 50,000 heads of lettuce daily over 11 acres of greenhouse.
12-month-a-year program where we don't stop, and we're able to reduce the food miles that go into delivering the product to Canadians. It all came from California or Mexico or Florida. And now you're seeing the greenhouse industry start to gain a bit of a foothold.
Pretty incredible. Tyson joins us now. Tyson, a lot of Calgarians are actually food insecure.
Tara, it's about a quarter of Calgarians who struggle to access enough food across the country. It's about 7 million people. Those are numbers from the Affordability Action Council's latest report. Now, Canada's food price report for this year estimated that food prices would go up about 3 to 5%. That number will be even higher if these tariffs do come back at the beginning of April. Now, just to give you a snapshot of what some of the food prices have gone through over the last several years, between 2019 and 2024, beef and chicken went up by about 32%. Tara?
Wow, that's incredible. Tyson, thank you.
Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation members have more questions than answers.
What do we do? Where are we at? Why are we in this mess? It was surprising yesterday that the incident happened.
CTK Chief Scott Tashapi was recently arrested and faces fraud, theft, money laundering, and breach of trust charges. Tashapi has been granted a conditional release, which bans him from contacting nation administration or elected officials, accessing banned financial records or finances. He's also banned from administration offices and to have no influence over band governance, among several others, leaving members wondering who is leading the nation.
Our chief has been arrested. People are scared. They're confused. They don't know where to go and what to do.
Those answers were expected as part of a band meeting Thursday after some councillors met with police, but the public meeting did not go ahead as not enough councillors attended.
Council have a fiduciary obligation, a duty to its members, to carry the kettle and its members. We also have an obligation to ensure the protection of our financial.
But members hope the community can move forward united.
Hopefully that this whole matter can be resolved, and let's create unity once again. Let's come together as a band and work together. You know, whatever has happened yesterday, let's put that behind us.
Chief Ashapi cannot be reached for comment, but his court order does not allow him to speak publicly regarding his charges. Now, band council would not comment further from what they told members prior to the meeting's adjournment, as they too work to figure out just how the nation can and will move forward. Donovan May, CTV News, Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation.
Governments at every level across the country have taken steps to fight back in the trade war with the United States. And ordinary Canadians are stepping up to do what they can as well.
We have to support each other, support the local, support small businesses.
We are, and I think other Canadians should. This is reprehensible what the government in the United States is doing, and so you can't do anything to sustain that.
Not only are people planning to buy Canadian, many also specifically plan to boycott American companies. While one individual's choices may have limited impact, collectively 40 million Canadians can make a difference.
I think it starts from just yourself. If I think I don't want to do it, if you think the same way, we'll have majority people not doing it.
People choosing to protest with their dollars may find it easier said than done in some cases, unless they're willing to give up some of their creature comforts, like iPhones and most video streaming services.
It's all American programming, and that's the challenge. There's such a cultural dominant force when it comes to entertainment. It's hard to avoid not choosing American content.
The Retail Council of Canada supports Buy Canadian initiatives, but warns a total boycott of American companies who do business in Canada may have unintended consequences.
It's one thing to shop for Canadian product, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to boycott international or American retailers that are, employing your neighbors and kids and, paying taxes in your community and so on.
At the end of the day, savvy Canadian consumers hoping to voice their opinion with their wallets may have to pick and choose their battles. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Always hit, and I'm looking up, and I'm getting ready to catch it, and then I stepped in a hole and I go down.
City Councillor Sean Dobson is no stranger to softball or ground squirrels.
Needless to say, I had 6 weeks of a cast.
Since then, the prairie dog population has only grown in Winnipeg, and some say they're also wreaking havoc.
The squirrels have obviously multiplied and had created quite extensive damages to the point where the athletic fields would be unusable.
8 soccer and baseball fields in particular, one in Charleswood, River Heights, St. James, and Minarski, while the rest are in Point Douglas.
They would shut them down this summer.
To prevent any potential disruptions, the city is moving forward with the plan to bring the prairie dog population under control, using a sulfur gas pesticide known as the Giant Destroyer.
You put a wick in it and you light it up and you throw it in the hole and you have to cover it up. And if there's actual pocket gophers or ground squirrels in the hole, yes, it will kill them, but it takes time and that's part of it.
The last time the city used the pesticide was in 2014, before switching to a carbon monoxide method which proved to be unsafe for those using it. But the city's latest decision is sparking controversy and calls for non-lethal options.
Things like exclusion methods, which involves covering over burrows with materials like mashed concrete, etc.
Santos says they are exploring other ways to mitigate the marmot mayhem.
They are going to continue on with more research on the carbon dioxide version, which is, again, another way of putting them to sleep.
Dobson says he's on board with the most humane and safe option. But when it comes to getting the process started, he says, go for it.
Outside of the field, no. But on the fields, yes. It has to be done to make them safe for everyone.
City crews will use the pesticide on the 8 athletic fields once a month starting in May. Santos says signs will be posted and nearby schools will be contacted. Alexandra Hollig, CTV News, Winnipeg.
From delivery vehicles on our roads to delivery vehicles built for tomorrow, tariff anxiety is having an impact on the auto industry and those who support it, even with a newly announced 27-day reprieve.
I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows. So we just have to wait and see, I guess.
As goods, including auto parts, continue to roll, an urgent meeting was held at this London hotel. Among those at the table, union leaders with GM Cami in Ingersoll.
There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of phone calls, a lot of stress on young families, especially when you're trying to raise kids and everything else, and you're not sure when your paychecks are going to keep rolling or not.
It's the same story for workers at Ford and Stellantis plants in Ontario. Representatives from each attended the closed-door session. Afterwards, Unifor National President Lana Payne expressed solidarity with Canadian workers.
We're all in this together right now. This is an attack on the auto industry. It is an attack on auto workers. It is an attack on workers all across this country.
Payne is pledging to mobilize her members should any automotive plant or supplier attempt to move equipment to the United States over tariffs.
Our union will fight back against any attempt to appease Trump by taking jobs out of Canada and shifting them to the United States. That will not happen.
So we have a good industry here. We need to hold on to the industry, and they can't just piecemeal it plant by plant back to the U.S. or back to Mexico even.
The president has been very clear that he is coming for our jobs. He's been clear.
Yet amidst that threat, bring 'em on appears to be the spirit of auto workers ready to fight for their jobs north of the border.
I'll still say it's a great time. It always is to be a Canadian.
In London, Sean Irvin, CTV News.
Chris Moya knows Saskatoon's drug crisis all too well. He's seen it firsthand. Last week, he was forced into action when a man overdosed outside Station 20 West.
I gave him a nasal shot, and he wasn't responding. You know, he's going purple, and he was losing his breath.
When the first dose of naloxone didn't work, Moya rushed back inside to grab another dose and call 911 after giving some chest compressions.
But at the same time, I have to use my other hand to keep giving him chest compressions, and I have to open another kit, and I have to give, you know, it was overwhelming, you know. It was a scary experience, you know, because I'm thinking to myself, you know, I don't want to lose this guy.
The Ministry of Health, the Saskatchewan Health Authority, and Saskatoon Police all issued warnings of their own Thursday about a higher risk of overdose death dating back to last week. The fire department has responded to more than 180 overdose calls in that time, nearly 23 per day, including 37 in a 24-hour period.
The thing I can say is the drugs are not the same as when they were before. They definitely don't smell the same as they used to, and they definitely don't look the same as they used to.
A former user herself, McNabb worries about family and friends who are addicted to fentanyl or meth.
A lot of my friends I know now personally are probably have passed away because of drugs or just lost in the streets because of it.
Moya is also concerned about benzos, also in the drug alert, and which are resistant to naloxone. With a sudden spike of people overdosing, he thinks there should be a state of emergency.
That's really scary because it puts the person more at risk of actually passing away.
With the tough week that still isn't over, Moya isn't giving up. He's motivated to get back to work.
We got to continue being there, supporting them, helping them, and it's tough, man. It really is.
Keenan Sorakan, CTV News, Saskatoon.